Trump backs bill to sanction China, India over Russian oil, U.S. Senator says. So let me get this straight: Donald Trump, the same guy who once called himself the master of the art of the deal, is now backing a plan to sanction two of the world's biggest economies for buying Russian oil? Oh, this is going to be spicy. Welcome back to the Meridian Report, where we break down the political chaos so you don't have to lose sleep over it, though honestly, this story might keep you up anyway. Quick favor, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell icon to keep getting the latest updates on politicians around the world. Cheers if you did. Now back to the show. Picture this: Senator Lindsey Graham, Trump's political wingman and possibly the most enthusiastic cheerleader in Washington, just dropped a bombshell. According to Graham, Trump has given the green light, or as he dramatically put it, greenlit a bipartisan push to sanction countries that are still cozying up to Russia by buying their energy exports. And who's at the top of that naughty list? China and India. You know, just two nations that together represent nearly 3 billion people and a massive chunk of the global economy. No big deal, right? What could possibly go wrong with poking those bears? Now, before we dive into the beautiful disaster this could become, let's set the scene. Ever since Russia decided to play real-life risk and invade Ukraine, the West has been scrambling to punish Moscow economically. Sanctions here, embargoes there, and a whole lot of finger-wagging everywhere. The goal? Choke Russia's economy by cutting off their oil money. Makes sense in theory. But here's the problem: while the United States and Europe have been virtue signaling their way through energy sanctions, countries like China and India have been quietly filling their tanks with discounted Russian crude oil like they're at a Black Friday sale. Russia's been selling oil at bargain basement prices, and Beijing and New Delhi have been buying it by the tanker load. Because why pay full price when you can get a geopolitical discount? And honestly, can you blame them? India's got over 1 billion people to keep fed, clothed, and powered. China's running the world's factory. Both nations are thinking, why should we suffer economically because of a conflict happening thousands of kilometers away? It's pragmatic. It's cold. It's also incredibly frustrating for Western leaders who want everyone to pick a side and hold hands in solidarity. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Trump backing sanctions against China and India for buying Russian oil is like watching a plot twist in a political thriller that even the writers didn't see coming. This is the same Trump who spent his entire first presidency cozying up to authoritarian leaders, praising Putin's strength, and calling Xi Jinping a good friend. Remember that? Remember when Trump talked about Putin like he was his golf buddy? And now he's suddenly on board with economically hammering two massive nations for doing business with Russia? The character development here is absolutely stunning. Lindsey Graham, bless his heart, seems absolutely thrilled about this bipartisan effort. And when I say bipartisan, I mean it's one of those rare moments in American politics where Democrats and Republicans actually agree on something, which is rarer than finding a parking spot at a shopping center on Christmas Eve. Graham's been pushing this sanctions bill hard, and apparently Trump's endorsement is the golden ticket to getting it through Congress. Because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that Trump's word still carries massive weight in the Republican Party. When Trump says jump, they don't ask how high, they just start building a trampoline. But let's talk about the elephant and the dragon in the room here. India and China aren't exactly going to roll over and play dead if these sanctions hit. India's already walking a diplomatic tightrope, maintaining relationships with both Russia and the West. They've been buying Russian oil to keep their economy afloat while simultaneously strengthening ties with the United States through defense partnerships and trade deals. Sanctioning India would be like burning a bridge you're still standing on. And China? Oh mate, sanctioning China is like declaring economic war. They manufacture everything from your smartphone to your shoes. Cutting off China economically would send shockwaves through global supply chains faster than you can say inflation crisis. Here's the kicker though: this sanctions push isn't just about punishing countries for buying Russian oil. It's about sending a message. It's about the United States flexing its muscles and saying, if you're not with us, you're against us. It's old-school Cold War logic dressed up in modern sanctions packaging. The problem is, the world's a lot more complicated now than it was back in the 1980s. You can't just draw a line in the sand and expect everyone to respect it, especially when economic survival is at stake. And let's not forget the timing here. Trump's backing this bill as he gears up for another presidential run. This is political theater at its finest. He's positioning himself as the tough guy on foreign policy, the leader who's not afraid to stand up to America's rivals. It plays well with his base, who love the idea of economic nationalism and sticking it to countries they see as taking advantage of the United States. But the reality is far messy. Sanctioning India and China could backfire spectacularly, driving them closer to Russia and creating an even stronger anti-Western bloc. It's like trying to put out a fire by throwing petrol on it. Lindsey Graham's enthusiasm for this bill also tells us something important: there's genuine bipartisan appetite in Washington for getting tougher on countries that are undermining Western sanctions against Russia. Democrats see it as defending democracy and supporting Ukraine. Republicans see it as protecting American interests and showing strength on the global stage. It's one of those rare issues where both sides can claim the moral high ground, even if the practical consequences are terrifying. But here's what really gets me about this whole situation: the sheer audacity of it all. The United States is essentially trying to dictate who other countries can and can't trade with. Imagine if China tried to sanction America for trading with Taiwan, or if India threatened consequences for American companies doing business in Pakistan. There'd be outrage. There'd be calls for sovereignty and freedom of trade. But when Washington does it, it's called strategic foreign policy. The double standard is absolutely breathtaking. And yet, despite all the complications and potential disasters, Trump's backing this bill. Whether it's genuine conviction or political calculation, it doesn't really matter at this point. What matters is that if this bill gains traction, we're looking at a seismic shift in global economic relationships. India and China aren't going to take sanctions lying down. They'll retaliate. They'll find workarounds. They'll strengthen their own alliances. And the world will become even more fractured than it already is. It's like watching a game of geopolitical Jenga where everyone's pulling out blocks and hoping the whole tower doesn't collapse. So what happens next? Well, if Trump's endorsement gives this bill the momentum it needs, we could see it pass through Congress and land on whoever's president's desk for signing. If it becomes law, the economic fallout will be immediate and messy. Trade relationships will strain, markets will panic, and countries around the world will be forced to choose sides in a way we haven't seen since the Cold War ended. It's high-stakes poker with the global economy as the pot, and nobody's bluffing. The beautiful irony here is that Trump, the guy who built his brand on making deals and avoiding conflicts, is now backing one of the most economically aggressive foreign policy moves in recent memory. It's bold, it's risky, and it's absolutely peak Trump: unpredictable, controversial, and guaranteed to dominate headlines for weeks. Alright legends, that's all for today's episode of the Meridian Report.